And we're live! Hi, and welcome to a special edition of Botha Rants. My name is Sophia Botha. And today we're going to talk about, two...
Oh, can I mention that I'm here too?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I managed to sneak on your stream somehow, and by taking over
Well, you still
the
haven't
internet.
introduced yourself. You haven't said what your name
Oh
is.
yeah, sorry. I'm Ozma in the Dark. I'm on here like every Monday, which is tomorrow's Monday.
Except you were here last Friday, last Wednesday, and last Monday. Well, you're
Look,
meant to
I'm
be
here
here
a
on Monday.
lot.
Yeah, you are, aren't you? Yeah. It's
It's because we get along.
It's as if you're becoming my full-time co-host.
Yeah, but like I also need like some work, so that might change soonish, because otherwise I won't be able to feed myself and house myself, and I kind of need those.
Yeah, well, yes, obviously. Anyways, where was I? Yes, I've managed to fuck up the intro yet again. Anyways, as I was saying, tonight we're going to be talking about two trans content creators I don't really like. Right, so Essence of Thought, as you can see there, that's her YouTube channel, and Lily Orchard. Now, my problem with these two is actually similar. Basically, they seem to have the attitude that everyone else is transphobic but themselves. Yeah. In other words, they're extremely militant. Believe me, I haven't crossed paths with Lily Orchard, but I have crossed paths with Ethel, who is the main person behind the Essence of Thought channel.
And Ethel is the person who's more confrontational to my and less forgiving.
Yeah, she is. She is really confrontational, right? It's as if she needs to have enemies. Yeah, it always seems to me that she's always looking to for someone to be her enemy. That's the impression. Now, the thing is, and I'm trying to think of a nice way of saying this, but I've had a similar experience due to being autistic, and I know Ethel is also on the autistic spectrum, so I kind of think, yeah, she doesn't know who could actually be her friends. Now, I'm not saying she hasn't done good work, actually. You can see there she's called out Rose of Moron, and she's called out Blair White, very well-known transphobes. But at the same time, I don't know if it'll show up here. Yes, it does. Obviously, having a go at Philosophy Tube before they came out. Abigail Thorne, of course. I mean, if we go into her videos here, I'll give you an example as to why Lily Orchard, what I mean by Lily Orchard and Essence of Thought, why they piss me off in a similar manner, and why they're too militant for their own good. Take Abigail Thorne, better known as Philosophy Tube. They made a very stupid joke around the time of the presidential election. And Essence of Thought said this was transphobic. No, it just wasn't a very good joke. It wasn't funny. It was very lame. It wasn't transphobic.
Well, also, it wouldn't surprise me if part of the reasoning for that joke was that Philosophy Tube was not ready to come out, but was thinking about that sort of thing a bunch. So
Yeah. Some people have said that. I'm going to say that I kind of guessed they were trans about 2 years ago. They put out a video coming out as bi. And I remember me and my fiance watched it, who's also trans, and I said, I think they're trying to tell us something more here. I just got that, like gay men have gaydar, well, trans people also have transdar. You sort of.
It's not always functional, but yeah.
Yeah, you get that inkling. And I was right. Look, Abigail Thorne is a credit to our community as far as I'm concerned, along with ContraPoints, otherwise known as Natalie Wynn. And of course, but to Essence of Thought and Lily Orchard, these people are transphobic. Now, here's the interesting thing. As you can see by the title of this particular video,
give you some.
Ethel seems to have an issue with Lily Orchard. From my understanding, I'm not going to play this video because I'm going to say this. I find Ethel's style incredibly boring. I'm just going to say it. It's very dry, very matter of fact.
I find that sort of thing interesting. Find ContraPoints boring.
Well, I'm going to say this. Lily, at least I will say this for Lily Orchard, right? Her rants might be inaccurate and bullshit, but at least I find them semi-entertaining. I just don't find Ethel's content at all entertaining. Plus, also, what's with the 1970s footballer's haircut? I am sure Pat Jennings had that haircut, or was it Bobby George, the scorer of when Arsenal, who scored the winning goal when Arsenal won the double in 1971? She's probably going to say I'm being transphobic for saying that. Hey, look, I'm critical of my own hairstyle. I mean, I'm, a Janis Joplin hippie. My hairstyle's a Janis Joplin hippie disaster. Won't deny it.
And my hairstyle is amazing. That's why I'm on camera.
Yeah, apart from no one can see it. To describe,
not here. No. It's effectively a faux hawk.
Yeah. Anyways, are you going to do something about that actually? Because you could get mistaken for Marilyn Manson.
Oh my god. For one thing, it's because of my beautiful face that I get mistaken for celebrities. And if not Marilyn Manson, it'll be someone else. So, I've just sort of resigned to the fact that I'm just going to end up looking like a celebrity.
Yeah, aren't you meant to break down in tears and say, "Oh, you've misgendered me. You've compared me to a guy." Aren't you meant to be doing an Ethel on me? No.
No,
let me tell you.
Although, I mean, that would be difficult as well because I can't really connect to someone who blocked me.
No, it's not. It's not. No, never mind. You didn't get the gag there. Yeah. Well, no. Anyways,
we went in two different directions with the gag. I think.
Well, I said that you do look a bit like Marilyn Manson because I remember when Marilyn Manson has been in the news recently
for being an abuser.
Yeah, and you went. I showed you the story, and there was a photo of him, and you went, "Oh my god, I look like him now," and
yeah.
But the fact is, aren't you meant to suddenly now be having a tizzy because I compared you to Marilyn Manson? Thus, I must be misgendering you. You see, this is the sort of attitude that Ethel adopts. Let me sum it up for you, right? A few years ago, on a trans group I used to run on Facebook, I had to make an announcement, right? And I said, "Hi, boys and girls," right? And listed the detail of what I needed to announce. Next thing I know, I've got a whole slew of people going, non-binary erasure. I went, what the fuck? Did I advocate that non-binary people should be put into cattle trucks and shipped up to the gas ovens? Nah.
Well, no,
No.
it's
Well, no, but they see the saying that accusing me of non-binary erasure. It was like, for fuck's sake, I made a simple fucking mistake. You know? Now you're accusing me of being a fucking Nazi. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, and I actually find that fucking offensive, right? Because, you know, we know what, you and I particularly as Jews know what, real fucking erasure is, It's
well, I mean, erasure comes in.
Yeah. I know it does, but what I'm saying is, it's sort of the melodramatic thing accusing me of that I'm trying to erase fucking non-binary people, And at the time, I didn't, I obviously realised there are different forms of erasure. For instance, we always get sidetracked on this type of bullshit, but the erasure, as in, for instance, what they're trying to do. What TERFs are trying to do here is, with the, shall we say, help of the Tory government, is prevent trans youth getting, healthcare, and thus that is erasure, because what it's trying to do is trying to prevent, trans youth being themselves. Right.
Well, I mean,
I understand there are different contexts of erasure, but it's when you see someone, post black and white on, on a post. So this is trans erasure. You're first thinking, hold on, have I advocated for the murder of non-binary people? And the answer is no. But that's the kind of fucking attitude that people like, Ethel fucking take. It's really dramatic and it's really not fucking needed. All they needed to have said is, you forgot to include non-binary people in your address. That's all they needed to do. Not accuse me of fucking wanting to, terminate fucking non-binary people. That's the problem I have.
Well,
and I've got nothing against non-binary. I fully support, non-binary people having equal rights to everyone else.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention the type of erasure they're likely talking about relates to the sort of historical rewriting type erasure, but they're misusing it, because there is that sort of erasure as well, where certain people just
yes, but they didn't fucking explain that. They just said this is trans erasure. All they needed to have said is, you forgot to mention non-binary people. If they'd said that, I would have gone, okay, I'll recorrect it. But it's when they accuse you of trans erasure, you suddenly think, well, what the fuck? I'm not advocating. Why can't you hear me when I'm saying this to you? That's how I felt. I felt like they were... right? They didn't explain. Right? All they said was trans erasure, and it made me sound like I was advocating for the termination of fucking, non-binary people. Right? Well, when you say that, it's something in black and white without any fucking context. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the kind of attitude which Ethel adopts, and it's not fucking helpful, because, as I say, it puts people's backs up.
Yeah, it pushes people away who want to find a community, because nobody knows. Because people aren't... It's not like people are taught this, so people aren't going to... immediately come out as trans and know everything about advocacy.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing.
I'm just saying, but when
you saying something and you being an advocate for something are two different things, and two different ways in which the ways in what you say are. It's different levels of impact.
Yeah, but they were accusing me of either trying to exclude non-binary people, or at the least, or at the most, wanting to terminate them, and that's what I don't like. What I am trying to say to you, yet again, all they needed to have said is, you forgot to mention non-binary people. If they just said that, they wouldn't have put my back up. Right?
Yeah. No. Sorry. effectively agree with you.
I'm sorry, I know I'm getting upset about it, but it was one of those moments I just got really pissed off.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and with good reason, because that sort of stuff, it does push people away, and
yeah, and this is the kind of
which is a problem.
and this is the kind of attitude which people like Ethel and to some extent Lily Orchard adopt. Very extremist militant attitudes, right? That everyone else is transphobic other than them, which really pisses me off, right? Because actually, it doesn't do trans people any favours. Let me explain in another context. We had
Yeah.
all those accusations of anti Semitism against Jeremy Corbyn, right? Which were bullshit, right? Which
Yeah.
actually, right, detracts from genuine anti Semitism, right? And there's plenty of it.
Yeah.
You know, I saw it on display in London yesterday. And it's, basically the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, you falsely claim anti-Semitism against people, right? Enough times, and people know it's a false accusation. When you do, allege genuine anti-Semitism, right? People aren't going to believe you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, and also obviously anything where you call people out, um, you have to be trusted in order for what you said to be believed,
Yeah.
right? That sounds uh, uh, a bit roundabout, but like there are ways of talking about something to change minds, and there's a way about talking about something where if you're believed, um, if you're accurate and you do um, good research and you make statements that don't seem hyperbolic or whatnot or compared to the situation, yeah, then you'd be trusted. But if you just
I mean,
look
see,
for problems and point them out
Ethel,
as like
Ethel accused me.
murder.
Ethel accused me on Twitter of being ableist for not knowing that she'd been ill. I
Yeah,
didn't know. I
that's
mean, I said to them, I'm not a fucking mind reader. Basically, the story goes that I had sent them a tweet and I hadn't responded in 2 months. So I sent them another tweet, right, saying, why haven't you responded? The next thing I know, they're accusing me of ableism because I hadn't read their fucking mind. Yeah. That's the kind of bullshit, people like Ethel and Lily Orchard and others are pulling, and it's not doing the trans community any favours. There certainly is, a great deal of, transphobia around. We know that. We report it on a daily basis on this show. Yeah,
yeah, by government agencies. It's also one of the things that relates to advocacy is criticizing the system and not more so the system and less so individuals. Um, Not to say that you can't like fucking point out awful individuals in areas of power, but there is stuff that really affects people's well, there's a lot of stuff that affects people's lives, and that element can't be ignored for the in favor of um, uh, just pointing out that this is shit. There has to be a little bit more, and we do talk about more.
yeah, right. Now, as I said, Ethel has done some, has been writing, criticising, calling out Rose of Dawn and Blair White.
Rationality rules at the time.
Oh, I haven't seen that video.
Oh, that was a year or two ago. Rationality Rules did a big thing against trans women in women's sports.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. But what I'm sorry, what I'm trying to say is uh shit, I lost my train of thought now.
Well, I mean, I got the impression that you're trying to say that uh, it doesn't help. Essentially, that doesn't help kicking down
Well, what I'm saying
other
is,
trans people over mistakes.
yeah, I mean, they've also kicked uh, they've also kicked, as I said, Abigail Thorne and Natalie Wynn, who are not transphobic, have accused them of being transphobic when they aren't transphobic, okay? Because they've made silly mistakes, okay? Now, I've said I don't really like Ethel's style, and I will show you why.
Background as to the pony community here on YouTube. My Little Pony is a Hasbro toy line which, similar to Transformers, was released alongside a recurring TV show designed to promote and sell merchandise to children. However, with the release of Friendship is Magic in 2010, My Little Pony went from generic girl toy line to cultural force. This resulted in a number of YouTube personalities, mostly adult fans of the show, amassing huge followings by discussing the media and its various themes, lessons and characters. Now by the time we arrive in 2015, said lineup included Josh Scorcher,
that's how I
aka
feel.
Commander
I know
Firebrand,
it's how you
Lily
feel, but I
Orchard,
like
and
this sort of stuff.
Inkros,
So
the three of whom worked together at the time and were considered a power trio. Though I should note that Inkros and Lily mostly interacted through Josh. Lily was also a fan of something known as Fire Road.
Oh, I forgot to wind it right back to the beginning. Hold on, I'm going to do this again. We're fucking up tonight, big time, but
it's okay.
As a broken clock once said,
speaking out against abuse fetishists, pedophiles, and bigots in your fan base will always be better in the long run than being quiet or complacent. It might be exhausting to deal with, but it's better for everyone in the long run.
So speak out I shall. Though before we can get to that, I just need to give a content warning for the following topics: sexual assault, child abuse, child sexual assault, grooming, incest, gaslighting, victim blaming, and queerphobia. I also need to give you
and a trigger warning for Ethel. See, this is I mean, obviously there are things that trigger me, right? But I don't expect everyone to put fucking trigger warnings on fucking everything. I don't know. I mean, this is when some people seem to think I'm a bit of a troglodyte about all this. But the thing is, right? It's like, how the fuck can you get through your day if you feel threatened by so fucking much? You know, I bet. I wonder if Ethel has trigger warnings on the corners of her desk, because I mean, corners they can be like a bit threatening, you know.
Well, I mean, I think I feel like that's a bit hyperbolic because.
All right, okay, fine.
If you're talking about like trigger warnings, just to make sure that people who haven't reached the point in which they have been put in a position to cope with severe traumatic experiences, like what was mentioned, so they don't accidentally end up having an incredibly distressing time.
I know people who are triggered by certain things, right? By certain movies, by certain TV programs, right? But they watch those programs and they complain about being triggered, knowing that they're going to be triggered. See? I know it's people who are looking. I mean, I know I'm sounding a bit like Blair White here. I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's quite victimhood. I don't think it is. It's victimhood. It's as if they're not happy unless they're being fucking offended. More like. You know,
well,
I know, I mean, there's been people I've known people like this throughout my life. You know, they want to be offended. Yeah,
Yeah, but like,
they're not happy unless they're they've got something to bitch about. Yeah.
well, yeah, but I mean, I feel like that to some degree is taking elements from an actual thing. Like, surprise triggering isn't always helpful, and depending on what it is, like I couldn't trust anyone for like 12 to 24 hours, and possibly even slightly more when I got triggered by Jake. So I'm like, I can't really make a strong argument against trigger warnings because the level of impact is different depending on the person.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe in some ways I've always thought the one advantage I have over a lot of trans people is I've had to experience prejudice and discrimination since I was born, due to being physically disabled. I was beaten up several times when I was a kid for purely for being disabled. And one time was one was in a swimming pool. I remember the two I really remember was one's at a bus stop. The other was in a swimming pool changing room. That one was the worst.
Yeah.
Because I remember what happened was the approved adult came in to check if we'd changed back, from a swimming gear into to clothes, and I was there on the floor crying my eyes out, and all the other kids said, "Oh, they slipped over," and the approved adult believed them.
Well, yeah.
So, but what I'm trying to say here is, I've had people be, for instance, I remember it's about 20 years ago. I was in a pub, and there was some drinking people I used to drink with, and there was this bunch of sort of rowdy chavs, and some guy was dragging a girl to my table, and they were both laughing. He said, "She wants to ask you out. You're really good looking." I knew they were taking the piss out of me being disabled. I knew immediately, right? Yeah. Of course, my friend, the people at the Hamwood said they were my friends. They were just drink. I don't really class drinking buddies as friends. They were people I used to drink with, right? They didn't understand that they thought. I think they thought they were serious, and I said, "No, they're not fucking not. They're taking the piss out of me for being disabled." And I had to sit there and explain that to them. Yeah. And so, I know what it's like to face discrimination from a very young age, and maybe that's enabled me to have a thicker skin than some people, right? Some other trans people, right?
Maybe, but it might just be personality and the type of experience. There could be like a multitude of different factors, and it's not. There's a cultural assumption that if you experience hardship, then you will be able to cope with just about everything better. But unfortunately, that's not how things work necessarily. It depends on the person, and if they don't yeah, I mean that's a
no. I'm just saying. I'm just saying because of the discrimination I faced as a disabled person since I was a child. I guess I'm just used to being getting shit, And
Well, I mean, I got shit since I was
yeah, and
a
obviously,
child too. For
I
different
mean,
reasons.
these days, I will get more shit for being trans than disabled.
Well, yeah.
Though, and I've had,
Same.
and
I got
before,
shit for
and
crying. I got shit for the size of my
and
ears. I got shit
and
for.
and I'd point out that I've also had shit from other trans people for being disabled, including people
Well,
like
yeah.
Caroline Cozzi and Faye Presto, who are well-known trans, who are well-known trans women in the public eye. Well, less so with Faye Presto and these days, but Caroline Cozzi still pops up in the media. That I actually remember when I found out I was autistic, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to, in this country. Yeah, they'll diagnose you with autism, or Asperger's as it was then. I mean, actually, I still prefer referring to myself as being Aspie. Even though these days you're meant to say autistic spectrum
what you
disorder.
call yourself what you call yourself is what you call yourself.
Well, no, but I remember when I found I was Aspie, right? And I was worried about, am I now going to be, going to get help, and being able to better cope with the world. And I was being told not to. I was being told I wasn't, there was very little help, available. Faye Presto reduced me to tears on the phone, saying, "You're feeling sorry for yourself, blah de blah de blah." Now she was projecting her own shit. I know that now. I didn't know that at the time, though. I didn't have that awareness then.
Yeah.
Some trans people can be really cruel to you if you're a trans person who's disabled, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's silly to have trigger warnings, but I mean, I'll go with the flow these days. It seems to, I run a discussion forum on Facebook, and I will put trigger warnings up for when posting stuff about transphobia and stuff. I'll go with the flow, right? But I sometimes think some people, yet again, take it all a bit too far. Okay? And I do think that Ethel is one of those people. Anyways,
I mean,
as I said, I find Ethel rather her style rather earnest and boring. But as you can see from the title of the video, Lily Orchard encouraged a friend to groom a minor. Now, this is a pretty heavy accusation to make. The kind of accusation, if it's untrue, that Lily Orchard could sue Ethel. Okay? But as I've said prior, Lily Orchard isn't that dissimilar to Ethel in basically making out that everyone else is transphobic. They're the only ones who are virtuous. And we're going to deal with some of that now. Me and Ozma have been through this video once before off air. And Ozma actually had more to say about it than I did. Now, essentially, this is Lily Orchard accusing Natalie Wynn, otherwise known as ContraPoints, of transphobia. And also anti-Semitism, which we'll get into as well.
Well, I mean, this the
well,
suggests that Lily Orchard is making the argument that ContraPoints is spewing turf rhetoric, which is very specific and not really an accurate statement if you actually look at the stuff. I mean, I don't agree with ContraPoints on everything that she says, but I wouldn't call it turf rhetoric.
All right, so we'll get into this.
this generic music was like in this generic music has been used in too many different things, and it's just really boring. And yeah.
You know, not being a fucking shit merchant shouldn't be as hard as some people like to make it out to be. I talk a lot about performative allyship on this show, and I also talk about internalized bigotry a lot on this show. I've covered people and works that are made with a certain degree of self-hatred at their core, and I've tried to deconstruct why this attitude is such a damaging and deconstructive one. I rail against LGBT people who other themselves through monstrous or non-human portrayals, and I rail against those who try and make self-deprecation and self-flagellation a core part of the LGBT experience. Today, we're gonna do more of that because ContraPoints has spent the last month and a half shooting yourself in the foot. So, brief rundown for those of you who are blessed to not know who Natalie Wynn is. Natalie Wynn is a philosophy YouTuber who made a name for herself through analysis of right-wing talking points and how completely nonsensical they are. As the environment surrounding quote-unquote leftist YouTube started to grow, ContraPoints was quickly eclipsed by many other YouTubers who just had more general knowledge about philosophy, politics, and social awareness.
What? No. ContraPoints is one of the biggest philosophy tubers out there. She's also one of the biggest trans tubers out there.
Yeah.
And
and
the thing I do detect throughout this fucking video is that Lily's a bit jealous. Yeah, she's a bit bitter.
That could be a factor, although
yeah,
for sure. I just know that this video is terrible.
Yeah.
And
as a result, Natalie's
my problem with ContraPoints is that she gets too philosophical for me, and that's what bores the hell out of me.
Work turned away from philosophy and more towards these vague, esoteric topics well, there's really no other way I can describe it. Nothing. Her
videos are about nothing. Okay, let's go and have a look at Natalie's channel, shall we? Let's go and have a look at see if these videos are all about nothing, shall we?
Well, I mean,
J.K. Rowling. That's is that about nothing? No. Voting, is that no? That's not about nothing. Justice.
Justice is a philosophical comment. So
yeah, it's
definitely
oh god, erotistical. The word that Lily's just
aristocracies.
No, fuck's sake. Hold on.
Okay, I don't.
Clips by many other YouTubers who just had more general knowledge about philosophy, politics, and social awareness. As a result, Natalie's work turned away from philosophy and more towards these vague, esoteric topics.
That word.
Oh, esoteric?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. These are sort of subjects which there's another word for it. Oh god, I'm having brain farts, and it's really fucking embarrassing. No,
sorry, I was thinking out loud. I didn't mean to say the same word again.
Basically, some of the stuff she talks about isn't like it's not they're concepts, right? They're not tangible things as such.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's philosophy.
Yeah. It's just philosophy with relation sometimes to modern conversations. Opulence is philosophy. Shame is philosophy.
Yeah.
Canceling isn't that great of a
But I don't think it's about nothing. Yeah? I do think these are about specific subjects. Okay? So, I don't know where Lily got that one from.
I don't know either.
I
honestly don't know.
Well, there's really no other way I can describe it. Nothing. Her videos are about nothing, just a lot of waffle and excuses to dress up in costumes and talk to herself. When Natalie dared to step down from the MC Escher pedestal and talk about something real like an actual human being would, it would often lead to her playing devil's advocate for gross, disgusting pieces of shit like TERFs, transmedicalists, and incels.
No, she's doing juxtaposition type stuff. So she'll play it. There is a video where she sort of set up a mock sort of debate between a trans activist and a TERF, and she played the trans activist and the TERF and the host. Funny enough, it's basically using the sort of theatrical sort of stuff to explore the subjects. Okay, that's what she's doing. Just as like you get films which explore various issues, or books. I mean, for instance,
but
I'll never forget the one. There was a guy I used to know, Phil, and he was so fucking stupid. I'd explain sort of concepts which George Orwell, explored in 1984, and he would say, "Oh, it's all bullshit. 1984 didn't happen." Well, that's not the point of the book, Phil. Basically,
also the year 1984 did happen.
Well,
sorry, that was.
Don't confuse the fucking matter, okay? You know what he's saying, the sort of dystopian future, which...
Yeah, no.
I know, I have to fucking explain it because you did that fucking stuff. No, the... fucking hell. Because basically, people will use the vehicle of stories, theatre, film, to explore, various social issues. Okay?
Yeah.
Great tradition.
Birth of a Nation being the worst of those.
It was, I'll give you an example. It's Star Trek. The original series definitely dealt with, a lot of stuff which was happening in the United States at the time, like the Vietnam War, racism, civil rights, gender equality, that sort of stuff, right? This is what Natalie does, in her bedroom, okay? And, look, I don't like, as Ozma says, I don't like everything Natalie says, or she does. I don't like every video she's done.
Yeah.
But I can see why a lot of cis people in particular, feel that Natalie's stuff is accessible, right?
Yes,
because it looks,
and that does genuinely help. I know I am aware of at least one ex-alt-writer who was largely influenced by or learned from Natalie's videos for the purposes of or getting out of that, essentially.
Right. Okay. Anyone saying anything in chat?
Well, Hugh was talking about Lily Orchard's video and says swings and misses to get views and clicks, which... And also, HK mentioned allegorical. Was that the word you were thinking of before?
No, I'm having a brain fart.
Abstract thought was also...
That's it, abstract.
Okay, HK was right on the first guess. I just
abstract,
always tend to assume one word, not two.
Abstract concepts, that's what, which is what a lot of philosophy, a lot of philosophers do. They talk about abstract concepts, Anyways, onwards.
Incels is probably the most telling, as she claimed to sympathize with men who seem to struggle finding a date. Of course, the reason they struggle so hard is because they adamantly refuse to drop destructive and abusive habits that are putting everyone else off, a problem that Natalie herself would then demonstrate for the next year. Now, I need to prefix this by talking about something I'm going to call the diamond dilemma. See, Natalie hates being called a true scum. She hates that and thinks that it's unfair and needlessly mean. But as we're going to discover in this video, pushing trans medicalist propaganda is something she does. There's no question about it. For all intents and purposes, she is a true scum. Whether that is intentional or accidental is entirely up to her. Natalie was constantly coming under fire for rhetoric that sounded extremely like transmedicalist rhetoric. Transmedicalism is the rhetoric of a true scum that insists that gender dysphoria is a medical issue entirely, and that you absolutely need dysphoria to be trans, and that being trans is inherently linked to binary gender roles.
Then you...
Okay. the concept, I think that sort of the meaning of true scum has sort of broadened to also mean those trans people who bully other trans people for not being trans enough or not being trans the right way.
Yeah, I mean
that's been my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's broadened a little bit in terms of that, but also I disagree with the assessment that ContraPoints is transmedicalist.
Well, no, she's not, and I will tell you why. People can go and look this up, but when ContraPoints debated Blair White, must have been about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, they were identifying as genderqueer then.
Well, yeah, although that doesn't stop someone's opinion from changing. I was thinking of more so the video where.
Well, no. But I think Natalie's intelligent enough to think that she couldn't portray herself as being true scum, considering her own past. So, and I mean, I've not heard anything from Natalie which is considered I would consider true scum. So
well, yeah, that was essentially what I was going to get. I disagreed with one aspect of it because she went. I felt like she went too philosophical with the meaning of being transgender and missed some of the points, but it wasn't anything that promoted a specific way you had to be trans. It's just one of those things where it was actually the opposite problem. Like I ended up I was a lot closer to transmedicalist because gender dysphoria is a large part of the reason why I transitioned initially. So I had a problem with one of Natalie's videos because I felt like I felt like it disregarded gender dysphoria. So the exact opposite problem of what's considered transmedicalist. So I don't think that ContraPoints is a transmedicalist to any degree. And I don't think that she said anything that was, I mean, she's doing her best to explain things. And I think a lot of things just, the longer people can be open, the more people can make better explanations for their experience.
You are fully trans, your identity is fully valid, but until you begin living as a woman, your womanhood remains kind of hypothetical.
Yikes.
I'll tell you what, Lily, you're the one, because later on she starts bitching about Natalie giving God, the fucking names escape me. Oh, fuck's sake, what's happening to me today? The trans guy is a true scum. Buck Angel, that's it. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. She accuses Natalie of well, she did give Buck Angel a platform, and he is true scum. But here's the thing, Lily. Here you are featuring a clip of Dean Cain. Dean Cain is a horrid, Republican, GOP. Yeah, known to be homophobic. Yeah. You're featuring a clip of him.
Admittedly, that's still technically a little bit different than giving someone.
No. But I kind of think that if Lily Orchard expects Natalie to have the same standards that to be absolute, have militant standards, then, you know, we should expect Lily to have militant standards and not feature clips featuring a, you know, a homophobic, you know, GOP piece of shit. Yeah.
True scum have a great deal of contempt for non-dysphoric and non-binary trans people and believe them to be faking their transness to be trendy. In practice, true scum rhetoric is little more than trans people projecting their internalized transphobia.
Now, that's one correct thing, Lily. Well, there's a couple of correct things Lily says in this video. That is true. Just go and speak to India Willoughby. She is the ultimate example of that.
Onto other trans people who have the gall to not be miserable all the time. Natalie was constantly pissing off trans viewers with their careless and destructive comments about them, and at one point even started selling anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on her merchandise. Her first instance of this was a video called The Aesthetic, where Natalie staged a debate between a true scum character and a character that took the correct view that gender is eternal and you are what you say you are. Needless to say, the character who was actually right was presented as weak, ineffectual, and on the losing side of the argument, and Natalie did very little to refute the claims made by the true scum character. Natalie ignored and disregarded all the criticisms from trans people who found this video hurtful, and a couple of—
Hold on. The whole character Tiffany Tumbles, which, you know, which features in Natalie's videos, is taking the piss out of Blair White, who is a true scummer.
Yeah,
so,
I get the impression that, and this would be, like, I am capable of making mild criticism from a creative standpoint of Natalie. I don't think she's a horrible person by any measure. I think the thing that Natalie does that while is interesting, of just showing an argument between two sides, it does help more so if you do something to show which view you believe is more ethically correct. Otherwise, it feels like I realize to some degree it's a thought experiment and helping people think there is good to that. But
well, I saw that video and I kind of felt that the true scummer did not win the argument. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, they're...
A couple of days after the video, she tweeted out a long diatribe that ended with, "I'm sure this is not the experience of many NBs. I leave it to them to articulate what non-binary existence looks like in a binary world. I do not and cannot speak for them, but surely an account that begins and ends with, 'I'm not a man because I don't identify as one,' is pretty weak."
Now, this is something we disagree about. Essentially, what you've just heard is Lily Orchard taking the piss out of Natalie's voice. And there is the case to be made that that's transphobic. Because this is something which TERFs have done to trans women. They would certainly do it to me for my voice because I don't sound typically feminine. But you didn't think...
I mean, this is like you said, this is where we disagree on, and that's partially because I just feel like the way it was done was not was more making fun of, it was more doing an impression of intonation and less doing what TERFs would likely do, which is drop the pitch.
Yikes.
This thread was quickly deleted and Natalie went completely silent until she released a video titled Pronouns. In that video, she did not make a direct apology to the people who felt hurt and disgusted by the aesthetic, and in many ways she doubled down on the true scum themes by saying she wanted to believe NBs and such.
So the polite thing to do here is easy. If someone asks you to call them they, you call them they. But if you're like me, you don't want to just do a thing because you dogmatically believe it's the woke thing to do. You want to understand why you're doing it. I don't just want to tolerate non-binary people. I want to be a convert. I want to believe about them what they believe about themselves, so long as those beliefs are reasonable.
So long as those beliefs are reasonable. That's not a real position to take. Here's the facts, plain and simple. There is no logic or reason.
Okay, that's the part that Lily pissed me off, because I understood exactly what ContraPoints was doing. It was like a philosophical argument of, I want to do the right thing and I want to understand and not. Well, I mean, tolerance versus acceptance is a big deal. If you just surface level understand things versus understand why you care, why you should care on an ethical level, it's a completely different view of the same thing.
Attached to someone's identity, especially someone's gender. They owe you no explanation for how they got to that point. You are not an authority, you are not a judge, you are not the elected leader of trans people, despite what cis people might say about you. There is no dogma attached to it. You don't use someone's pronouns because you dogmatically believe it's the woke thing to do, or because you understand all the logical nuances.
Logic is irrelevant.
You do it because you were told to, because it's polite, and because I'm assuming your mother did not raise you in a fucking barn. And it's about as simple as that. It stretches back.
So that I also have an argument with that sort of argumentation. You should do it because that's the way things are done is not really a way to change anybody's mind. I would argue it enforces the sort of non-thinking, knee-jerky sort of attitude, which is ultimately more harmful than helpful. Yeah.
Back to that tweet we showed a moment ago where Natalie says that someone saying, "I'm not a man because I don't identify as one," is pretty weak. But the problem with that sentiment is that you aren't owed anything else. You're not entitled to an explanation, just do what you're fucking told. Were you raised in a barn? No. So stop acting like one. It's extremely creepy when people, cis and trans alike, believe they are entitled to have their say on someone else's identity.
So the polite thing.
Yeah, that's another thing which I think Lily's kind of right about. And isn't it galling that you have all these cisgendered people seeming to think that they're experts on trans?
Yeah, I mean, that gets really
yeah, you know, as far as I'm concerned, butt out, you know? Just, you know, what you need to do is listen to us, not preach to us, okay? It's a bit like men who are anti-abortionists. That always gets up my nose.
Yeah, well, I mean, anti-abortionists oftentimes really.
Yeah, but particularly the men.
The same sort of thing. Because protecting women or children or whatever.
Well, no, because men don't know what it's like to bear a child, do they? So, yeah, they're not the ones who have to bear a fucking child. So, butt out. I mean, I know what they're going to say.
Well, I mean, except for the trans men, obviously, but they're not the ones who are anti-abortion.
No.
Thing to do here is easy. If someone asks you to call them they, you call them they.
Look, cards on the table, I know very little about non-binary people, and it took me a year to get accustomed to using singular they entirely because I had to commit it to muscle memory. All I know about non-binary people is that they are neither male or female and use gender-neutral pronouns. But the thing is, I don't need to know anything else. Calling someone gender-neutral pronouns is fucking easy. Not being a shithead to someone is the easiest fucking thing in the world to do. You have to put in effort to be a dick to non-binary people like this. Also in the video, she highlights Blair White, a vocal internalized transphobe who acts as a yes girl for the alt-right, as
yes, even though she's one of the YouTubers whomst is bad.
Yes, apparently a YouTuber being branded as bad because they do bad things, abuse their platform to spread hateful messages, use their platform to target and harass children, and generally behave with all the grace and decorum of Julia Vickerman at a daycare is something that deserves to be treated with mocking melodrama. Now, it isn't doing these things itself that made Natalie such a target for criticism and ridicule. It was...
Sorry, Lily, so you don't like the fact that Natalie's having a go at Blair White?
Well,
who genuinely is hideously transphobic.
Well,
and hideously transphobic to make a buck. You know.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say Lily's criticism seems to be that ContraPoints can't laugh at Blur White for mindlessly following talking points. That instead, ContraPoints should mindlessly follow other talking points. And wait.
Was the way she responded to said criticism. Every time her terrible shit was brought up, the Natalie Wynn circle jerk would start turning like mad. The circle goes like this. Natalie says something shitty, prompting a backlash from viewers. Natalie then proceeds to try and explain her behavior despite it needing no explanation. More backlash. Natalie tries to write off criticism as a generational divide, a conflict of the radicals versus the moderates, and pontificating on the kids these days. Even more backlash, possibly laced with okay boomer this time. Natalie either deletes, protects, or otherwise abandons her Twitter and then makes statements on Patreon about how attacked she feels. The nostalgia chick goes on a rant about cancel culture going too far because her friend was held accountable for her actions, and apparently that's not something we do here over in breadtube land. Other straight white cis people join in. Natalie comes back after a week or so learning absolutely nothing and continuing her bad habits, and thus the cycle continues in perpetuity. If you're noticing something, it's that Natalie has an aversion to just apologizing. She's a lot like my ex-fiance in that when she bothers to apologize, it's always a limp-handed, passive-aggressive, sorry if you were offended apology that comes laced with about a dozen backhanded remarks, and really feels less like an apology and more like a self-indulgent tantrum. Natalie seems to be very afraid of having to actually walk something back and admit it was either unnecessary, needlessly hostile, or just plain fucking wrong. There's always this sneaky, underhanded attempt to write off criticism as some kind of impassable divide that will never be quelled. That is when she isn't just making up bullshit. Yeah, I wasn't just gonna let that reptile thing sneak by. Contra had a couple of videos about the reptilian conspiracy theory, a conspiracy theory by David Icke that posited that reptiles secretly run the world. David Icke was also an outspoken anti-Semite, and the lizard people in question are just another extension of the old-fashioned anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that the Jews control the world. Now, when Contra was criticized for talking about an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory as if it had anything useful to say, her response was quite unique, that it wasn't actually anti-Semitic, because she decided that it wasn't. In Natalie's own view, the lizard people represent capital. Why? Because I couldn't possibly be suggesting that Jewish people are actually lizards. That'd be crazy, which, as we all know, is totally not how conspiracy theories are formed.
Okay. Both me and Ozma are qualified to comment on this one.
Well, yeah.
As well as being trans, we're also Jews. Now, okay, I'm going to say this. It was misguided for Natalie to do that. It's a bad optic. Yes,
definitely.
The whole lizard conspiracy theory is anti-Semitic.
Yep.
But do I believe that Natalie is, deeply anti-Semitic? No. I just think she fucked up. And you won't hear me say that very often, I honestly, don't think Natalie is anti-Semitic. And I haven't seen her use that same, having reptiles represent capital since. So it's not like she's, still perpetuating that, anti-Semitic bullshit. I mean, if you're going to talk about this, there is a clip coming up of from Harry Potter. And there are, now I've never read any Harry Potter books. I've never seen any of the films. But I do know about the accusations that the way bankers are portrayed in Harry Potter is close to the way, close to not the Nazi propaganda, the way Nazi propaganda
they're
portrayed Jews.
Goblin bankers with big noses that control all the money.
Yeah, that is close to the way the Nazis portrayed us Jews. What the fuck?
Wait, what?
See, that's the thing about modern anti-Semitism, is that a lot of it is powerful people trying to blame problems caused by capitalism on Jewish people. It's why crazy right-wing nutjobs think Jewish people secretly run the corner store, grocery store, local store, banks, federal government, United Nations, secret global government, delete where appropriate, and it's also why general terms like globalist or cultural Marxist always seem to turn around to mean the Jews again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're well aware of that. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But I haven't heard Natalie bang on, about the New World Order or about cultural Marxism.
And anti-Semitism and anti-capitalism is so inherently linked a lot of the time that it's very easy for a critique of capitalism to cross over into anti-Semitic imagery.
Exploitation begins at home.
So, Liddy, are you accusing Star Trek of being anti-Semitic with the way they portrayed the Ferengi? Are you saying that the Ferengi are, the Ferengi are an
That
anti-Semitic
does appear
trope?
to be the implication that Lily is making, which is a strange implication since the Ferengi don't really look like Jewish stereotypes. Yes, they happen to be culture obsessed with money, but they're not powerful. They're one of the weaker countries, if anything, or not countries, but like planetary organizations.
Planetary race, I think you wanted to say there.
Sorry, what?
Planetary race. I mean, I have heard this before elsewhere, that the Ferengi are somehow an anti-Semitic trope. Considering that numerous Star Trek producers were Jewish, I don't think so. Yeah.
Well,
basically,
also,
the Ferengi were a product of reflecting Reagan's, greed is good America. That's essentially what the Ferengi, represent.
Also, you can't make a story without creating something that, if you give enough of a stretch, can correlate to anything else. There's just so little about the Ferengi that matches up with anti-Semitic stereotypes that I'm just like, I mean, yeah, they're culturally, there is a lot of cultural greed and sexism, but the sexism part isn't something that's in the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Yeah, they're just a different population.
Hagrid, what exactly are these things?
They're goblins, Harry. Clever as they come, goblins, but not the most friendly of beasts. Best stay close.
War Chief, a moment of your time.
Of course, the thing about that kind of baked-in bigotry is that it's very easy to come back from. When a character or trope has anti-Semitic roots that have been diluted over time, people tend not to make a big deal about it because cultural osmosis has made the roots of a lot of these tropes unknown to a lot of people. So if you slip into it, you can generally pick yourself up and get out of it, and people will be pretty forgiving. When Shadow of War was criticized during development for the orc merchant looking like an anti-Semitic caricature, they redesigned and reanimated him to have less of that problem, and then it was over. What a difference not doubling down on bullshit actually makes, huh? I myself have occasionally said things that sound like transmedicalist rhetoric out of sheer poor choice of words, but it never really becomes a big point of contention because 1, I'm always ready to throw down the moment a true scum rears its ugly head, and 2, I usually just apologize and try not to repeat the mistake. This is something Natalie is completely averse to, even small things like a recent controversy where she had true scum Buck Angel appear on a video for over 10 seconds. This was probably the easiest controversy to handle. Just apologize and promise to do more thorough background checks on who you're working with in the future, and then just stop there because a 10-second video clip is not a hill worth dying on. But instead, Natalie dug her heels in and had an entire fucking Patreon stream where she basically had a complete and total meltdown. She cried about how the left isn't tolerant enough, went as far as to go after people like H-Bomber Guy for being virtue signalers by making Donkey Kong said trans rights into a meme, and how trans people want virtue signaling over the detailed and nuanced testimonial she offers, and how older trans people will always be transmedicalists, so we need to be more welcoming.
Not true.
I don't know. I haven't seen that Patreon video.
Okay, I haven't seen the Patreon video, but I'm just going to say
she's
that
talking about the Patreon video.
Yeah, I know that. I know. She's talking. Right. So, yeah. No. But what I'm trying to say is, there is this misconception that older trans people are always the ones who are true scummers. That's not true. I'm just saying it's not true because it you know I've had that misconception dealing with older trans people, you know, thinking that they're going to be true scummers, that I'm not a real trans woman because I haven't had surgery, you know. But you know, in my experience, that misconception is not, well, it's a misconception. It's not true.
So long as we're paused, HK was wondering, do you think as channels grow, there must be an ego that gets fed, and it is how they keep that in check that counts?
I discussed this yesterday somewhat with Kevin Logan. I'll explain something after this video, okay?
Okay. We can do that.
Yikes.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. First of all, did you really use the virtue signal argument? Could you just stop blowing neo-Nazi dog whistles? For like a minute? Just a minute. For just a minute, stop wrapping your lips around that turgid fucking whistle and blowing as hard as you can. This was what became the straw that broke the camel's back. Contrary to what Nostalgia Chick and other white liberals might think, Natalie wasn't cancelled until this fucking diatribe came out. Before, Natalie was being dragged for saying something stupid, wrong, and bigoted, a dragging that would have burned itself out if she kept her fucking mouth shut. Natalie's previous brush up with trans medicalist rhetoric was to complain about being asked for her pronouns in trans-friendly spaces and how it made her feel bad, and people took issue with this because Natalie was putting her own feelings above other people's and acting as if it was some kind of virtue signal to ask for pronouns. Of course, trans spaces ask for pronouns because there's little to no visible distinction between a trans woman who passes and a trans man who hasn't started his transition yet. Additionally, there are people who are closeted in public, or non-binary people who would need their pronouns asked for because pass isn't an option for them. There's a lot of people in that equation other than Natalie, but for Natalie, this was a hyper-woke space that invalidated her being trans, while toxically masculine sports bars gender her correctly without asking, and she never once acknowledges that in trans spaces, asking for pronouns is a requirement. Natalie is brushing up against her own privilege for the first time in a long time. You see, Natalie is wealthy. Extremely wealthy. Her Patreon alone pulls in $150,000 a year at a fucking minimum. And that's before you factor in advertising revenue, sponsorships, merchandise sales, and any other methods used to squeeze more money out of a YouTube career. Natalie has the money to complete her transition comfortably. Being able to dress up the way Natalie does is a show of wealth. Being able to pass as well as Natalie does is a show of wealth. A lot of trans people are very poor and can't fucking afford a complete transition in just 2 years. And these kind of bare minimum standards of decorum are for those people who can't go to sports bars and automatically be gendered correctly. And Natalie would have thought of this if she was concerned about anybody other than herself.
Okay, Lily's correct in the sense that a lot of trans people are very poor, right?
And
I mean, I've heard
also HK agrees with you about this video sounding a bit jealous.
Yeah, Lily does come over as a bit bitter and jealous. What I'd say is I know about this incident with Natalie, and the tweet. Yeah, okay, it was a little thoughtless. I'm not going to deny that. But we all fuck up, you know. We all make mistakes.
It's true that we.
You have to look at you have to look at Natalie's body of work overall, not just the odd little fuck up. Yeah, her heart's in the right place. That's obvious to me. Yeah,
I don't know as much as
Natalie,
because I fall asleep during ContraPoints videos.
Natalie probably has educated far more, trans people than I have. So not. Oh fuck it, it's late. I'm tired. For the brain farts tonight. She has educated, far more cisgendered people than I'll ever be able to, about trans issues. That's what I said. I said her videos are accessible. They look fun. Yeah, that attracts people, right?
Yeah.
So she got a hailstorm of criticism for what was, in all honesty, her using her platform to go on a self-centered, myopic, egotistical rant for no fucking reason. And the lesson to be learned from this kind of dragging is simple. Check your fucking privilege. Natalie should have taken this opportunity to realize that she enjoys a lot of privileges because of how wealthy she is, and also the fact that she's white. And that kind of position will color your perceptions. The lesson should have been to stop acting like your minor inconveniences are something that should be voiced everywhere. It certainly wasn't. Make up a non-existent generational divide, but that's what she fucking did. But my experience is very different. I'm not a vanguard Zoomer tran. I sometimes feel like the last of the old school transsexuals. For clarity's sake, Natalie is 31.
That tweet was still cringe.
Yeah, okay. Using the term transsexual in this day and age, the only people I hear using it are true scummers. So that's the truth. Was unwise. No one is denying that.
And she started transitioning in 2017. She is not old school anything. I've been transitioning longer than she fucking has, and we're not too far apart in age. Natalie is a fucking millennial, not some Generation X or boomer stick in the mud, yet she talks like one. Moreover, someone who makes videos about trans issues should already know that transsexual is considered offensive now. But then again,
in my previous video, Nasty T-Babe likes it rough. Last month I released a video called Sexy Furry Pounded by Skinny T-Babe.
Natalie can't even seem to get that part right most of the time. But even if Natalie was 55, age is not an excuse for stupidity.
Can you pause it? That was a genuine funny clip in there. It only seems to be growing on me, that ContraPoints joke. Because yeah, obviously that's not what the videos were about. Like that's the joke. That's how humor works.
Time marches on regardless of how old you are. Being alive during the Jim Crow era isn't an excuse for racism because you lived during the civil rights era as well. You've had decades to educate yourself, and transphobia is no fucking different. If in 5 years you still don't understand that describing yourself as an indoor tranny is a fucking stupid thing to do, no amount of making up bullshit about a generation divide between you and other trans people that doesn't exist is going to excuse that. Your stubbornness and refusal to change your behavior is entirely your own fault. The fact that Buck Angel and other true scum still believe the bullshit about dysphoria being necessary for being trans, despite medical science and psychiatric studies debunking that idea a long time ago, is entirely a petulant tantrum because the kids these days didn't suffer enough for his liking.
Oh yeah, that criticism is bang on. That is particularly when I think of people like India Willoughby, Faye Presto, they're just full of sour grapes, and it's a lot easier for trans people now. Yeah, we should all suffer like they do. That's like me saying every person should be born disabled and feel the hurt I have felt for having been disabled. No, I don't want people to feel that you have to put up with the shit I've had to put up with. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that involves a lot of change.
It's not an opinion, it's a delusion. But I also understand why a lot of trans people who just want to blend in are frustrated with the new visibility and with the radicals. I'm feeling fearful myself about the future of trans acceptance, and I understand the desire to be invisible, tolerated, safe. I wish it were easier to talk about our different experiences and needs. The backlash has turned us all against each other as we fight over little scraps of empathy from cis society.
Right, okay. I do believe in trans visibility, but I'm a trans activist, I'm a trans commentator, I'm a trans gobshite, right? Many trans people aren't.
Yep.
They just want to get on with their lives.
Yeah.
Thus, they want to blend into the background. They just want to be...
Yeah, that's why going deep stealth was a thing for so long.
Right.
People wanted to be safe, and some people felt like they needed to.
Yeah, and
after legally changing things, move to a different state and start all over.
If trans people want to live in stealth, it's understandable, particularly in various parts of the United States.
Alabama.
Yeah, and Mississippi, and most of the fucking South. I can understand Natalie just wanting to possibly just want to get on with her life, and I empathise. I really wish I could. There's a part of me that really wishes I could. And I know that there'll probably be some critics out there saying, well, if you were able to live in stealth, you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be able to build your career because all you do is talk about being fucking trans. Well, here's the thing, my darlings. I can actually talk about other issues as well. The reason I talk about trans is because that is the issue which most affects me at the moment. Okay. But if I could live it,
depending on the football team.
If I was 30 years younger and perfectly able-bodied, I probably would want to just blend into the background and, I don't know, write about politics or, talk about politics and not talk about trans stuff. I'll admit that. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with trans visibility, right? In fact, I think trans visibility is a really good thing. Okay, the more of us visible, the harder it is for them to push us around, as far as I'm concerned. I see both sides of that argument. Okay.
Yeah, although obviously visibility isn't a radical idea.
No.
It's using the word radical, and there's certainly bad optics, and it is possible that she was just venting, and people tend to use worse words when they vent.
Yeah.
And there it is. The age-old, we're eating our own nonsense. This is generally what happens when a member of a minority group starts to either behave like a complete jackass, turns into a predatory weirdo, or becomes a bootlicker. They start getting criticism for their behavior, like any human being would, and suddenly, we're eating our own.
I still don't know what Lily's problem is against Rebecca Sugar.
I don't even know who that is.
So she's the person who created Steven Universe, and there seems to be some weird they're the ones who created Steven Universe. I am a terrible trans person and misgendered them because
For daring to expect the people who are marginalized not behave in a manner indistinguishable from a cishet white progressive whose progressive politics begin and end with weed. Natalie is part of a group of trans people who want to blend into cis society and become invisible. And guess what? So am I. I'd like to blend into cis society and become invisible too. But the thing is, not everyone has that luxury. There are poor trans people who can't afford a complete fucking overhaul on their body. And there are non-binary people who literally cannot fit into cis society.
Ask yourself, Lily, do you think that if Natalie could do more to help those people, she would? Because I do think she would. Yeah. And again, I'd point out her videos are educating cisgendered people, which is, a way of trying to help the situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with
we all do trans activism in different ways. Okay.
Yeah.
The social construct of gender has to change to accommodate them. There is no other option. This comes back to the problem of the fact that Natalie is not thinking about trans people other than herself. Or when she does think about them, it's in such an obscenely derogatory fashion to continue this endless fucking pity party for herself. Most people in Natalie's position should know better than to describe other trans people fighting to not be erased as the radicals. That is an alt-right dog whistle, and Natalie has wrapped her lips around it and blown like it was a fucking tuba. And I don't believe it was intentional, but Natalie's habit for blowing dog dog whistles and her resistance when being told to stop is a problem that creates this virulent outrage. And then it got worse. As I mentioned earlier, Natalie thought it was a good idea to hold a stream on Patreon, which was transcribed by the viewers. The stream ultimately resulted in her losing 300 patrons. The stream starts out with her apologizing for having Buck Angel on for a video, admits to not doing enough research on who her guests were, and saying she would do such due diligence in the future. Great, that's exactly what people wanted from her to begin with. An apology and an assertion that she wouldn't make the same mistake again. That's literally all people want when this...
Has she had Buck Angel on her channel again? No. Okay.
Well, yeah, but...
Just thought I should point that out, okay?
Kind of shit pops up. So how'd she fuck it up? She kept talking. The rest of the stream betrayed the apology by yammering on and on about how everyone criticizing her were being performative, which immediately invalidates an apology because it's made clear you haven't learned a goddamn thing and you didn't mean it. And probably the worst thing to me is that she did this so brazenly and so blatantly. Like, she actually thought people were that fucking stupid. The big thing that took up most of the stream was the latter half where Natalie talked about how easy it is to say trans rights, but hard to do anything substantial in terms of activism, and expressed frustration that trans people are more interested in a white cis guy who says trans rights than they are in her work. She also yammered on about how most older trans people would be considered a true scum, which is not actually true, how most of her friends are true scum, which is less of a clapback as it is an admission of guilt, and how she doesn't believe in canceling people because... well, she has an excuse, but the real reason is because she doesn't want to be in a position where she actually has to learn things and grow as a person, or just not flirt with conservatives the way she does. The problem with that sentiment is not only does Natalie not understand the power of kids being conditioned to shout trans rights rather than something like, did you just assume my gender, but the meme of trans rights came from a charity stream where one of her friends, the white cis boy in question, basically fucking destroyed himself, raising $300,000 fucking dollars for a charity to help trans...
That charity was Mermaids, and shout out to Susie Green who runs Mermaids. She's an awesome person, and she's had to take a lot of shit from TERFs, including Graham Lyman. The reason why H Bomber Guy did this was because Lyman had managed to get a review into a grant Mermaids had applied for, and as it goes, they did actually get that grant, and they also got the money H Bomber Guy raised. So, to you, Graham Lyman.
Trans kids. This meme sprung up from an act of actual fucking activism. Someone actually putting in work at the risk of their own fucking health to raise money to help trans kids get access to the resources they need. You want to talk performative, Natalie? I'll tell you what performative is. Dressing like a fucking clown and yammering on for way too fucking long about nebulous concepts that are irrelevant to most trans people and expecting people to appreciate it just because you're trans. Performative is when you base your entire brand around trans issues and—
Sorry, can you pause it? I believe that Lily Orchard just explained her video with that criticism, yammering on for way too long about a vague subject that people are supposed to accept because you're trans or whatever. That was a cell phone. I'm sorry. I found that funny.
And then claim to be a centrist when trans people come to your videos, expecting it to be a place that won't tolerate bigotry just because you don't want to disown shitty people who have already had more than enough time to learn the error of their ways of their own accord, because you are stupid enough to think that de-radicalization is anything other than a waste of effort, talent, money, space, and time. The ultimate showcase of how little Wynn cares about anything but herself and her big—
Sorry, that pisses me off because, like, yeah, de-radicalization and changing society is vital to get anything done. Most people, you need a majority of acceptance for you to be able to actually get something done. Like, changing mind is kind of vital for that. You can't just throw that away.
Bigoted friends was when she outright said she had no intention on making her channel a safe space for trans people, but rather fixating on de-radicalizing, read coddling, the alt-right, because Wynn is one of those people who is convinced, despite all evidence to the contrary, that a neo-Nazi getting out of the rabbit hole is something that can be influenced by outside forces rather than ultimately an internal decision. Natalie Wynn is the definition of performative. She doesn't do jack shit other than play dress up and shove her head up her own ass, and literally everyone is better at what she does than she is. Zinnia Jones covers trans issues with a lot more coherency and a lot less padding than Natalie. H-Bomber Guy covers other socio-political issues a lot better than Natalie. Movie Bob has de-radicalized more people by being concise and to the point for the sake of people who actually intend to improve themselves than Natalie could ever hope to through crappy dress-up skits and soft rhetoric, and Kat Black is more fabulous than Natalie could ever hope to be. Natalie doesn't do anything for the trans community. She doesn't even make her videos a safe space for trans people because she's so obsessed with de-radicalization. The bare minimum fucking standard that I can achieve without even fucking trying is something she adamantly refuses to do because it's more important to her to get bigots on her side than the people they are bigoted against. Natalie's entire gimmick is the golden mean fallacy, the thing that every dipshit centrist believes in. There's no wonder she keeps spouting true scum rhetoric with reckless abandon, abusing offensive and dehumanizing slurs, and flirting with the right as often as she does. She is a fucking charlatan who uses style over substance to distract viewers, ramp up her reputation of being some kind of stylish fab, and piggyback off the low effort crap she makes in order to wring as much money out of YouTube as she possibly can. And she has given nobody a reason to believe she is anything other than a grifter. Her actions so far are the ones of someone who is only in this for themselves and will trample on anybody in order to do that, whose care and compassion for trans people less fortunate than her only stretches as far as putting more money in her pockets, and she is not above flirting with the alt-right in order to do that. That is what her actions have demonstrated. And Natalie, if you're watching this and thinking, that's not fair, I'm not like that at all, I've just one thing to say. Prove it. If you...
Alright, she's flirting with the alt-right. Sorry?
Don't know.
What the fuck? She hasn't
Willie's talking. I think she's...
She hasn't had anyone from the alt-right on her fucking channel.
Well, I think...
also...
I think that might relate to using words like woke and I think it's like a real stretch because, like, yeah.
Also, lining her own pocket. Well, she does have to fucking, you know, put a roof over her head and food on the fucking table. Yeah, and obviously she's doing that via YouTube. Just as Philosophy Tube is doing so, you know, Abigail Thorne, right?
Well,
you know, I mean, Lily, you know, you've got 119,000 subscribers. You should be making some money from your YouTube channel, you know. And in fact, actually, you know, you say that, you know, she does fuck all for trans activism. Well, what are you doing for trans activism, Lily, other than whining about other, you know, trans YouTubers? I mean, I know some people are going to say we're hypocritical because what are we doing? We're whining about, you know, trans YouTubers.
True. Wait,
but
what are we doing?
But you know, I've done my part. You know, I've been to Parliament on several occasions to lobby MPs on trans rights. I've written letters. I've signed fucking petitions. I've waved fucking placards. Yeah, I've done my bit. And you don't. And also, Lily, you don't know what, you know, Natalie might do behind the scenes, right? You don't know about, but she possibly could have helped. You know, one-on-one, or you know. Several trans people, you know.
Well, I mean, I think once you get into hypotheticals like that, it's
no, but what
a little bit more difficult. But it's always
you don't know, right? We don't know how Natalie might help people in private, do we? If she does,
no. But I mean, we don't know how anyone might help people in private. Like,
yeah, but what I'm saying is that, for instance, it's that. I remember. Let me say. John Lydon's. It's not the best of examples, but because John Lydon's a homophobe, and
and a transphobe.
Yeah, and he voted for Trump, but he used to be like critical of those sort of like pop stars who said we did, you know, we do work for charity, right? He has done work for charity, but he doesn't go around shouting about it. He wasn't going around shouting about it. What I mean, you know, because the thing is, there are some people who you know, they'll go around shouting, I do this for charity and I do that for charity, because what they want is what they want you know, they want you to see some sort of fucking halo over their fucking head, you know. that they're
Well,
saintly.
there's
and,
that.
and the thing is, I just prefer people who, rather than shout about it, just get on with it, you know. And a lot of people do actually help other people in private without, any, with. You hear what I'm saying?
Well, I hear what you're saying. I just don't think it's. I think I'm actually not a fan of the cultural aspect of helping people in private, partially because I think it's easier depending on how you do it. It is possible to motivate people through being clear about what you're doing, what's a good place to donate to, what's a good thing to, what are good charities to work with, what are good ways to advocate. There's a lot of things that's helpful by not doing it in private. But yes, there are people who act like it charities give them a halo, and that absolves them of anything they did wrong.
Yeah. What was it HK said?
Sorry, there was a lot of conversation here, which was really enjoyable. There were
Something to do with
do you think as channels grow, there must be an ego that gets fed, and is how they keep that in check that counts?
Right. Well, okay. Right. Now, the other day we did record a video about this individual, but the sound wasn't very good. So, and I've got some more information since then. So, HK will be familiar with Kevin Logan's channel, of course. This isn't slight against Kevin, by the way. But someone he had on his channel.
Also, Hugh asked you a question as well.
What did he ask?
I was curious what your disability was.
I have cerebral palsy down the left side of my body. I'm also visually impaired. I'm also diabetic and epileptic. And I'm on the autistic.
Aren't you on the... Yeah.
I'm on the autistic spectrum as well.
Yeah.
Right. So, the other week, Kevin had ChaosIsMel on the channel. Now, I was due to have ChaosIsMel on my channel. We had agreed a time. Not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. A few hours before we were due to go live. Actually, hold on. Before I go into all that, I should explain who ChaosIsMel is. ChaosIsMel is a trans woman and a self-described commie shit poster. And she's caused a bit of controversy recently when she appeared on Volsh's channel and denied that the Chinese government were committing genocide on the Uyghur Muslims. Anyways, as I said, that's what she's been known for. Now, she doesn't have a YouTube channel. She just has a Twitter account. Okay, but she's made quite a bit of impact. And I wanted to get on the channel to talk to her about being a trans woman of color living in the Midwest of the United States at a time when, GOP controlled legislators. I can never pronounce that word. Are hell-bent on persecuting trans people. And of course, to compound the things, there's always the racism towards Asian Americans.
Yeah, that has definitely ramped up.
Well,
As
yeah,
well
thanks to
recently.
thanks to Donald Trump always referring to COVID-19 as the China virus.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I'd arranged a time a week, not last Thursday, but the Thursday before, for her to come on my channel. And we weren't going to talk about, genocide denial, or, whether she thought North Korea was a buffer state or not. We were going to just talk about trans issues. But a few hours before, she bailed, but said that she wanted to reschedule for the following Thursday. I went, all right. So the following Thursday came, and Ozma was also going to be part of this conversation. So
yeah, whether to moderate or whatever. Because
Well, we're going to be part of the conversation, and looked like it was going to go. It looked like it was going to happen. But about 20 minutes before we were due to go live, I get a message from Mel saying she couldn't do it. And each time she's given me some rather bullshit excuse, okay? I'm just going to say that. But this time I was pissed off, I was starting to, get the impression she was just dicking me about. I also had the suspicion that the reason she was dicking me around was because I'm a rather small channel. In other words, she's what they now, the politically correct term is clout shark. There is another term, an older term, attention whore. But
I was thinking clout chaser. That's what I heard, clout chaser.
Yeah. So, this is possibly the real reason she didn't want to really come on. Now, I did call her out publicly for dicking me around. And I also pointed out to her that she was dicking around someone who is disabled and not in the best of health. At that point, she blocked me on Twitter. Now, we're talking about somebody who's only obviously, someone like Volsh has, what's about 250,000 subscribers, something like that, 300,000 maybe.
A lot.
Yeah. And I don't expect him to take any notice of me.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, sorry. I've got all completely. Sorry, I'm struggling here at the moment. Sorry. No, what I was meant to say is she'll go on Volsh's channel, right? Because he has got 300,000 subscribers. Okay. And she'll go on Kevin Logan's because he's got about 15,000, right?
Yeah.
But she won't come on mine, because I don't give her enough attention. Because, I won't give her enough exposure. That's the real reason. Most probably. Now, as for other channels, as I was saying, I didn't expect Volsh to, pay me any attention. But I have tried to approach other trans content creators about, them coming on my channel, right? So that they could get, exposure, for themselves and their thoughts to, a new, possibly, a new audience. And essentially, I don't exist to them. And we're not talking about people who have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of subscribers. We're talking about people who have a few thousand subscribers here. Okay? Not that much larger than my channel. Okay? But on the other hand, you know, I've had Dusty Smith on my channel. Yeah. And he's got over 200,000 subscribers. I've had Vera Wild on, you know, Council Geeks on my channel. They've got, you know, their channel's pretty big. Yeah, so not everyone, and of course there's Kevin Logan. Of course, I've had him on my channel several times, and I've been on his channel several times.
Yeah, and
so
Logan's nice to talk to.
Yeah, he's fun. I had a great talk with him yesterday, right? But I am getting a little sick and tired of this, because a lot of these channels of trans content creators, they're always bleating on about how trans people need to support one another, and then it's kind of like, well, okay, you know, why don't you lead the way, you know? But you know, it's just bullshit, isn't it? You know, I mean, Ethel from Essence of Thought actually accused me of having being self-entitled, and I went, no, I just wanted you to acknowledge my existence. I wasn't expecting to come on your channel, but could you just at least respond to my tweet, even if it's just to tell me to fuck off? You know, just be nice. I mean, essentially they did do that eventually. You know, I mean, for instance, my friend Jane Fay, she knows another trans content creator, right? Has messaged us both about, you know, how we should get together, you know, suggesting we should get together and do something. That other trans content creator hasn't responded. Yeah, I don't exist to these fucking people, right? And it's really fucking frustrating, right? Now I will do both the rants, whatever, you know. I'll keep just plugging away at it, right? And another thing which pissed me off that happened a couple of days ago. I was watching Dylan Burns, right, on Twitch. As I responded to something he said on his video with a Streamlabs donation, okay? And I've done this with Kevin, right? And Kevin does respond to Streamlab donations, okay? Just as Dusty responds to super chats, right? And but Dylan Burns, it just went, oh, someone sent me $1. It was like, oh, someone sent me $1. Yeah, I just don't like that sort of fucking attitude. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it is ego, and of course the excuse is like, I get thousands of viewers, you expect me to respond to you? It's people like myself and others who have put you where you are by watching your content. You could be at least a little grateful. You know, this is why I am grateful to every fucking person who subscribes to this channel. I genuinely am. I can't see every person who subscribes because some people's accounts are private. But, you know, I am well aware. This is why I do try to interact with the chat. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just saying. So that in answer to, I don't have to answer your question, HK. Yes, some people are egotistical twats. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's why I'm here to keep you in check. With my with my ego, to conflict with your ego. No, I mean I think it's one of those things where sometimes ego, I mean, I personally, I should say, think that it to some degree, egotistical people are more likely to be charismatic.
Well, I just think some
charisma
some sort of like progressive YouTubers who pretend that they care about the world are in fact, I've heard this from other people, I've been told personally, utter arseholes, right? Now, that doesn't mean they're bad people. I mean, some of the greatest sort of creative geniuses in the world have been known to be personally arseholes. You know, so. But I kind of think that, particularly when it comes to the trans community, we do need to support one another. Okay.
Yeah,
and I'm not
with relation to activism and as well as support
and I know, and as I said, you know, despite the real reason I wanted to get ChaosIsMel on his channel is because I actually empathized with her. Yeah, I did. And I felt that, you know, she the one thing she did, obviously she mentions it when she goes on other people's streams that she's trans, but it's the one thing she doesn't talk, people haven't talked to her about, you know, a great deal. And I think it is something she doesn't want to talk about. So that's why I wanted to have her on, because, you know, I'm an LGBTQ focused channel.
Yeah. And I was going to say that intersectionality, as well as trans people supporting trans people supporting people with disabilities, you know, basically LGBTQ supporting disability and Black and people of color, you know, just rights and trying to make the world better. I mean, it's all. You can do all of it. You don't have to focus on just that.
Yeah. Well, so just to respond to chat, Hugh, Dusty is a trans ally. He's if you look at the under the playlist under the playlist, both the chats, you'll find my interview with the chat. Well, I don't like calling them interviews. The chat I had with him last May. He's a really sweet, gentle guy. He really is. He's lovely, and he's been on the Fluid Voice.
I know, that's what I was just about to say. I was just about to plug the fact that he's been on the Fluid Voice as well.
So is Kevin Logan.
There have been some people with larger channels that have been on the Fluid Voice, despite the fact that I am much worse at getting that channel to grow on its own completely.
Hi, Jade Star. Jade Star.
Yeah.
Just looking through the chat here. Natalie got a private jet. What?
Natalie got Soyborn. Sorry. There was a joke earlier about Soyborn coming in on a private jet.
Oh, yeah. Something I just remembered. Talking about people Natalie's managed to convert, right? Thurman Meyer. I don't know if you remember Thurman. No, Thurman is originally from South Africa, right? And she's got a stronger accent than mine.
Oh, yeah. No, I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah, right. And she was a conservative. She'd emigrated to Canada, and she was a conservative, right? I think she was on. I think she appeared on Dave Rubin once, right? But she was a conservative, right? And Natalie helped basically convert her away from that, because Thurman used to post videos about True Scum videos of having a go at non-binary people, and then she didn't post a video for a really long time, and suddenly there was this video where she was saying sorry to non-binary people, and she was in tears about it. She genuinely did seem, heartfelt. She was giving a heartfelt apology, and I know that she ended up working with Natalie. So, that's one person I can think of. She's convert.
There's been I can think of at least one other, but I forgot his name. He talked about admittedly Destiny starting it, and then ContraPoints being like the main meat of his moving away from the sort of alt-right cult, because it does utilize a lot of cult-like attitudes, and they're also the sort of people who the alt-right cult is also the sort of people who would use clips from Lily Orchard and just say SJW and blah blah blah. All the dumb shit.
Hugh Allen makes
writers do.
Yeah, Hugh Allen makes a really good point here. We don't know what Natalie spends her money, cash on. She could give to transgender. Yeah, exactly. We don't know that.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of times, so some people see people who are millionaires even, and millionaire isn't actually as much power and influence as people seem to think. It's really the billionaires that need to be gone after. But yeah, I don't know what she spends. What she spends her money on. I knew so like I know ContraPoints was raised rich, but I don't know that she could have been disowned partway through college and then left with a bunch of high-end schooling debt. So I don't know. There's just a lot I don't know, and ultimately, as with a lot of things, it's people should do what they can do.
Yeah.
And people shouldn't like give up their lives for, like, if you're trans, you don't have to give up your life for trans activism.
Yeah.
No matter who you are.
Anyways, that brings to the end another this special edition.
You didn't mention much about Essence of
Well, I did mention them. Oh, well.
Oh yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah, I did mention them. Yeah, at the beginning. Right, I might do another special on Tuesday, going through some of India Willoughby's transphobic bullshit. As I said, I might do that on Tuesday. I did do a video near the beginning of when I was taking this channel a lot more seriously, but I had to pull it because I made a massive fucking mistake in that video. Anyways, but tomorrow, me and Ozma will return. And we will definitely be talking about Caitlyn Jenner. Can't avoid that.
Yeah.
Can't avoid it.
Well, she is very visible. And honestly, it does help for there to be a variety of trans people, so it's easier to see us as people, and not as like some caricature.
Also, starting in less than an hour it's a pre-recorded edition of the Fluid Voice, talking about new atheism. That's on the Fluid Voice has a Pacific channel, doesn't it? It's different from your own.
Yeah, I mean, it's a channel I've done the most with.
Well,
recently.
Yeah, stick a link to your channel in the chat.
The Fluid Voice.
Yes. Well, yeah. Stick a link to that. Well,
I'll do both of them.
Though you forgot to put me. You forgot to put a picture of me on in the thumbnail for the latest edition.
fuck. Okay, one more. I can edit that real quick. I'm going to edit that. So as we speak, oh wait, no, that's. I forgot to switch channels. Switch accounts. I mean.
Right. Okay. Well, don't worry about it too much. Yeah. So there's the latest edition of the Fluid Voice is beginning at 1 a.m. British time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
Do you want to? For once, I've actually included all your links in chat. Not in chat, in the box below. But if you want to plug where people can find you.
Oh yeah, people can find me at OZMA'S.com. I set up the fluidvoice.net.
That's what you haven't told me about.
Voice, voice stuff. I mean, although it defaults to like fluidvoice0.wordpress.com because of apparently you need to pay a bunch extra for each site or whatever, which is expensive, and I don't have that kind of money. But yeah, so that should be yeah. So OzMa'S.com has links to my Twitch and YouTube, and I swear I'll get back on Twitch evenally. I know I still raid in World of Warcraft. I just
yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
Sorry.
Right. Okay. As I said, me and Ozma will be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. British Summer Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Ozma will be telling us some interesting facts about Toronto.
Yes, I will.
Yes.
I do have those facts.
Yes. In the meantime, if you like this video, give it a like. Please do share this video. If you've got any feedback, leave a comment down below. And most important, please do subscribe, and thank you to all the new subscribers. So until tomorrow, please stay safe and take care of yourselves. Peace out.
Bye.